you go up there and all you want to do is just, you want to divide us even more instead of uniting us and being a leader and showing us that we're going to get through it. You didn't do that.
Government, if given too much power, they make a lot of bad decisions.
Focus on your family, focus on your community, and setting the standard of what you think America should be. Strive for excellence. Strive to make your community better. Strive to make your household better. Because if every single family out there does that, every small town, every community sets a higher standard and wants to go against the establishment, and that's kind of what the town is, that's hard to control.
So if you are a farmer,
over leveraged,
and you're over leveraged, this is what's gonna put some of those guys on the out.
All of the food we eat and much of the clothing we wear comes from plants and animals that are raised on farms. Farms are different in type, in size, and even in name.
Welcome to Barn Talk. What happens at the barn stays in the barn. Until now, we're going to let it all out for you guys. Today's going to be a political one. It's a hot topic. So buckle your seatbelt, get on the train, or get off the train. Because if you get offended easily, you get butt hurt easily, this is not the one for you. So if you don't want to listen to our political views, tune in to next week's episode. But if you do, welcome. Love to have you. Thanks for supporting the show, and pay the fee if you get any value. So if you guys know the drill, if you get any value from the show, share it out with your friends, family, coworkers, employees, whoever, trying to do some good in this world, or also leave a review on Spotify and Apple because it pushes our podcast out to more people. And you guys have been doing a good job so far, so just keep it up. And we don't run ads to promote the show, so it's all organic. Kind of the ticket to admission to watch or listen to the show. So we appreciate everybody that does that and continues to do it.
I feel kind of offended already.
Yeah? You got shit in your drawers or what? I'm before I go on a rant or a tangent here, I'm fired up. I got my American shirt on here, but we got to get a market update before I talk. But there was a YouTube comment that I think we need to address and just talk about a little bit before we get all into the show, but we probably should get a market update before then.
Okay.
What do you say?
Well, that's fine. We can do that. I'm eager to hear.
Yeah.
Markets on the stock market side, kind of choppy. This market's been up and down and hasn't really gone anywhere. And I don't know. I don't think it's going to go anywhere for a little while. Everybody's waiting to see what the Feds do, whether they're going to raise interest rates again. And I think it's a foregone conclusion that they probably will because they seem pretty committed to raising interest rates because they want to try to kill inflation. But we've talked before, I'm not sure whether our inflation problems can be fixed by interest rates. But we'll see. Anyway, oil's $86, so it's just kind of hanging in there. One thing that's driving a lot around the world is China's got a lot of problems, and so the dollar is strong, and I think that's kind of weighing on a lot of foreign markets, and it's weighing on oil too. And I don't think we really have a demand problem as much as we have a manufacturing problem. In other words, all the lockdowns and all the logistics problems is hurting demand for oil. So it's not like we have this huge demand that we can't feed. There's plenty of oil out there. We have trouble getting it where we need it, and we have problems processing it. And I think that's what's kind of driving the oil market. Tesla 274 was up a little bit. Bitcoin's 19,000, so crypto winter has not died yet. We made it out for a little while, but it's right back down. Ethereum's 1583, hasn't really changed much. Gold 1712, I think a week ago it was 1800, and silver 1790. A week ago it was 18, hasn't changed much. So corn is 680 on the board, and you can get 705 local, and Eddyville $8. So they're still wanting corn pretty bad. Soybeans 1546 at the river and 1490 on the board. Bean meal's $435 a ton. Wheat's $8. Hogs $91. Hogs, I just cannot figure out. I think I sound like a broken record. I can't figure out what's going on with this hog market because numbers worldwide are down. I don't care if you're talking about China, Europe, U.S. and Canada, everywhere. All the numbers are down from a year ago, and I don't think it's the demand side either. I just nothing seems to be able to get this price going, and it needs to go for the cost of feed. Cattle 145. Cattle doesn't have that problem. Cattle pretty good price. Yeah, that's about it. That was pretty quick.
Pretty
I got
rapid
through
fire.
as fast as I could because I want to hear this comment.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so we got a little political, I think, in our Barn Talk Q&A last week. We just talked a little bit about what our thoughts were and like kind of what we barely talked about it, but we got a little political and somebody got upset about it.
Apparently, we talked enough.
When we say we don't care who you are, what race you are, who you want to sleep with, who you want to be, what you want to do in this country, when we say we don't care, we're not saying we don't care about our fellow man and the fact that we don't sympathize with our fellow man. When we say we don't care, it means we want you to do what you want to do with your life and be who you want to be in this country, and we don't care. We don't hold any ill will towards you and what you decide to be, right? That's what we're saying. So choose to be who you want to be, do what you want to do. We just don't want to pay for it. And we're on the train that it's your life, you can do what you want, it's your body, whatever, go do what you want. We just don't want to pay for it. Because we do a lot of that in this country nowadays. We pay for a lot of the things that people want to be or do. And it's not that, I don't know, that's a hard system to figure out because taxes is just a monster, but it's not that we don't sympathize with our fellow man and we don't care about our fellow man. It's that we just, do you have anything you want to say about that? Because he got confused like we don't sympathize with people and other genders, other groups, like we don't sympathize with them. We don't care about them. Yeah. But that's not what we're trying to come off as. We care about our fellow man and our fellow American, no matter who you are or what you do. That's what makes this country great is you could choose to be who you want to be and do what you want to do. That's what we're saying. We're all on this podcast. What you got to understand is we are freedom. We are freedom-loving Americans. We want to keep freedom intact in this country no matter what. So that is how we kind of look at things. Yeah. Truthfully, when you boil it all down, that's how we look at this country and how we want the country to stay is free. We want you to be able to choose what you want to do and who you want to be, right?
Yeah. I think that's
without the demise of other Americans.
Well, I think that's the key. So I think one of the problems that we have today is just one. I can only talk about one problem, but the idea that somebody's agenda gets forced upon a group of people, I'm not for that. And some people will say that we're all operating on white privilege, and that everybody, if you don't look like me, you're already at a disadvantage, and the whole world's run on that, or the whole country's ran on my white privilege. I don't share that view, but then again, I'm privileged, so why would I share that view? But to turn around and force a group of people the idea that now then they should be discriminated against for jobs or for fill in the blank, whether or not they're qualified, whether or not they're following the law, because you need to get a quota of this type of person or that type of person. You're not helping those groups that feel alienated, because most of those people would not want to achieve said outcome by having it handed to them or by them being pushed this way. Everybody just wants the opportunity to be free and to make their choices and to live their life. And no matter what we're talking about, it seems like government has a very hard time meddling in anything without screwing it up. I mean, how many times have we talked about, government is good at taxing, they're good at killing people, and they're good at breaking things. And really, that's what government was designed to do, was to defend this country by all means necessary and get the money to do that by taxing. Everything else that they do, especially on the social scope, they don't do a very good job, because when you start trying to push one agenda or one group, when you try to, air quotes, help one group, it ends up being at the expense of another group, and you end up with artificial outcomes, and that's a whole nother podcast.
Well, the problem is they don't look at people as just people. Like, you know how you solve racism? You stop talking about race. You want to solve sexuality, and you stop talking about sexuality. You just let people be and choose and look at them as people and not what group they're in.
Right.
And then if you're in a company, you hire off skill level, not for a quota for your company to look a certain way because you hired this many Hispanics or this many black people or this many white people.
Or this many women.
It's all about, or this many women or this many gay men or this many transgender people. Why stop talking about it? Base people off of their skill level and who they are as people, not what group they're in.
Yeah.
That's what we got to do is in this country. We got to get away from putting everybody in boxes and judging people based off of this thing or that thing, race, sexuality, whatever, and just look at them as people. Because truly, I believe we're not in the minority of thinking that way.
Right.
We look at people as people, and our first interaction with you is how we're going to judge you as a person, not your race, not your sexuality. We'll probably sit down and have a beer with you, and whatever comes out of your mouth is how we'll judge you as a person.
Yeah.
That's truthfully how we look at it. And I think most people look at it that way. We just want to do our thing, you do your thing, and just let it not hurt another group that's in America. I don't know what you do to solve that, but I think if we just stop talking about those certain things, that would help a lot. But they don't want to stop talking about it because they want to alienate groups.
Right now in this country, there's an awful lot of time and political capital being spent to divide, and we're actually going to talk about that today. But to get to that comment, to make the short story long, is when we say we don't care, we mean we don't care about labels and
what group you're in.
Right. We don't care.
We don't
just do your best and go about your business, and
we'll go about ours.
Yes, that's what we mean.
And we're not going to have preconceived judgments towards you on what your race is, what your ethnicity is, who you want to sleep with, etc. We don't care. Do your thing, and we're going to do ours. And if we ever see you at a bar or a restaurant or something, we have an interaction, that's what we're going to judge you off of, is that conversation. Nothing else. That's what we're saying. So I hope that clears things up, because I know that can come off in a way. I sat there and I thought, and I was like, I guess that could come off in a way that people don't think we sympathize with our fellow American, but it isn't the truth. That's not what we mean when we say we don't care. We just are freedom-loving Americans, and we want to keep freedom intact. And we feel like everybody should have their opportunity to be and do what they want to do. So I hope that covers it. I know we went on a little rant there, but I felt like it was important to cover it. So
speaking of freedom and not wanting
and
to divide
divisiveness
people,
and all this. Yeah. So we're going to have to talk about the thing that's been trending a lot in politics the last, I don't know, week. Biden's speech. Everybody, you either saw the photo or you either watched the speech yourself, but
or you saw the memes.
Or the memes, whatever. But it was absolutely disgusting.
Cringy.
It was disgusting. Probably the worst imagery of an American president in our history of this country. The optics. I mean, politics is all about optics and imagery. And I'll just say, whoever thought it was a good idea to paint the background blood red and have two guards behind...
Two Marines
behind Joe Biden.
At attention.
I mean, it needs to be fired. They should have been fired yesterday. If they're not fired, or they need to be gone, because that was just absolutely disgusting. And I know a lot of you just rolled your eyes like, "Oh, what you big baby," but I think most Americans can agree and look at that picture and go, "What the fuck were you thinking? What were you thinking?"
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think when you look at that picture? What vibes? What do you instantly think of?
So the choice of the red background and the way it was lit, to me, it looked communist. It looked like something you'd associate with Putin or with Stalin or something like that.
Hitler?
Yeah. But regardless of that, and
I got Star Wars Palpatine vibes.
Oh, there's all kinds of. I saw a great clip where somebody put Bane's face mask on Biden.
Yeah, that was
just
good.
said, everybody go to your home and hold your family close, and out of the Batman movie. So yeah, it got a lot of. I think it got a lot of bad press because even CNN called it out, which is unusual for them, but it was just poorly done. And I don't know if you trace that back to the White House chief of staff. A lot of people claim that he's the one that really orchestrates Biden's speeches and how things look and how things go. And it was just a poor choice. But beyond that, I think the more dangerous part of the speech was the speech. And the idea that anybody that voted for Trump, anybody that has supported Trump, really pretty much anybody that was a Republican. Now, he said in there, oh, not all Republicans are like that, and independents are fine and all that, but you pretty much alienated half the country, maybe more than the country, and
I'd say probably more than half, just because his approval rate's at 30-something%.
Yeah.
So you alienated more than half of the country.
And then the other side of that is some people thought that he was really that speech, and then he stayed on that. So it wasn't just that speech. He spoke just 2 days ago, and he stayed with that rhetoric about
Republicans are the greatest threat to our democracy.
Yeah,
it's pretty much the vibe, and
that's what he said.
That's what I got out of it. Is Republicans, conservatives are the greatest threat to our democracy. And the thing that bothers me most about it, that part bothers me, obviously, but Biden was supposed to be this uniter. He ran on, he's going to come after Trump and unite us. He's not going to stir the pot up too much. And I think a lot of people bought into that, and that's why they voted for him, is because, he's not going to stir the pot. He's not going to be divisive. He's going to just bring everybody together. And that is not what was shown about a week ago when he spoke. That was not what was shown. He alienated half of the population in the United States. And I don't really know. I think the goal of the speech was, because midterms are coming up, and I guess he wanted to draw a line in the sand and try to bring people over. But honestly, I believe he probably pushed a lot of Democrats away with it.
Well,
I mean,
you're exactly right. So he wanted to fire up the base, and the base, the far left side of the base, I'm sure they were fired up because they believe that. And so I think he got that reaction. But the thing that really surprised me was, okay, really we're down to, in this country, you've got to go after the independents. You got to go after the independents and the middle, and you got to get them to go one way or the other. And you look at that speech, and if I was an independent, I don't feel like that would give me a comfort level that I thought, yeah, I need to stick with what the Democratic Party's doing. Because if an independent is more middle of the road, that speech was not anything near middle of the road. And
that's what that's what I'm saying. I think he ran on, I'm going to be this middle of the road kind of guy.
Yeah. Well,
not too left. I'm not going to be too socialist, but all his actions thus far,
his presidency has been totally pulled left.
Yeah.
Pulled left hard. I don't think Joe Biden, if you look at him over his political career, I don't think anybody would claim that he was a left-leaning Democrat. He really wasn't. I would say, if anything, he was an opportunist in the fact that I feel like he really just did what he thought would further his political career, and he didn't want to get too far one way or the other, as he was just toting the line pretty much. But once he was elected, you could see that his staff and the people that he surrounded himself with, and really the people that are running the Democratic Party today, they've pulled that thing left hard. And I don't know. We'll see we're going to see if it works, because he definitely was trying to fire up the base, and they're looking for anything they can do to try to salvage this midterm. And I've seen the story put out there that, the red wave is going to be more like a pink ripple, that the Democrats aren't going to lose near as many seats as what everybody thought, and that he's getting stuff done. That was part of the reason that he pulled this student loan forgiveness. A lot of people think that the reason he did that is because that was one of the promises he made, and he's got to have some stuff to run on in the midterms for candidates to put out there that, look what we've gotten done. And they got the big pork barrel bill passed, the inflation fighter or whatever you want to call it. And then he did the student loan. And then these speeches that he's doing, like I said, that wasn't the only speech he did like that. Just 2 days ago, he kind of stayed on that fired up right-wing Republicans are the enemy of the state, and divide.
It was kind of, it just felt like it was a presidential campaign speech. It was like almost like one of those TV ads you see when campaigning starts coming around, where it's totally destroying the other party, and it's just gross and disgusting. No one likes watching those kinds of ads. But that's kind of what it felt like. But he was alienating one side of the country, and it was not good. It was not a good look optics wise, and it just wasn't a good look speech wise.
Yeah.
And what I'd say is, he could have really used that opportunity to, unite us and talk about the issues that I think all of us Americans in some way are struggling with, whether it be inflation, the economy, the border. Are we ever going to fix this border crisis? Illegal drugs. I got a list here.
There's plenty.
There's a lot of them out there.
Well, I think that's a good point to go on, is
gas prices, inflation, you get it, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many problems. There's so many problems that are happening that are affecting just about 99% of Americans. Yet you go up there and all you want to do is you want to divide us even more instead of uniting us and being a leader and showing us that we're going to get through it. You didn't do that.
Well, So all that stuff that you listed are things that, as a president, he probably doesn't really want to talk about because he's not winning on any of those things.
He didn't help him.
He's not winning on gas prices. He's not winning on the border. He's not winning on the stock market. He's not winning on
inflation.
He's not winning on any of those things, and he really can't do anything about it. Here, and I don't know how long we want to stay on this, but the sad truth is, whether it be Joe Biden or the Senate or the House, we are spending an awful lot of time in this country. I feel kind of like we're winding the clock on the Titanic. We're spending a lot of time yelling at each other, trying to divide one another, when we should be working on the problems that are pretty serious, and they're going to get a whole lot more serious. And, this economy, it's not good. And it's probably not going to get any better, and some people think it's going to get a lot worse. But a quick stat that I ran up into the other day was, between 2008 and whenever we decided we were going to start tightening on interest rates, the United States government pumped about $4 trillion into the economy. And you can trace that back to about 92 cents of every dollar that got printed and sent out and given to people and pumped in, that went into the stock market. So the stock market went up. Well, now then we're drawing that down. We're tightening up. We're pulling money out of the market, and we're raising interest rates. That's not going to happen overnight, but it's going to come out. Well, if for every dollar we pumped in, the stock market went up, or about 92 cents of that money went into the stock market, logic would be, as we pull that money out, that money's coming out of the stock market. And if that's true, then
it's going to crash.
Prices that you see for companies, regardless of their earnings and regardless of their performance, when there's less liquidity in the market, there's less money to buy stock, and somebody's got to sell for that money to come out. So your prices are going to come down. So that's just one example of what's happening. On top of that, and we're going to get to another big thing, I mean, you've got energy prices, you've got commodity prices, and those things are all tied together. And it's not good, and it's not going to get any better. And regardless of who comes out in the midterms, and then forward, who becomes the next president, because I don't think it's going to be Joe Biden. It'll either be somebody that they run as his replacement, or it'll be a Republican. And, I don't know, but whoever that person is going to inherit a mess. And through all of this, now is a very poor time to spend the energy to get up on stage, to look like the emperor, and paint half the country as being the biggest threat to democracy. Really, today, do you really think that people that have a different political view than you, that's the biggest threat to our democracy? I don't think it's
if you do,
close.
You fucking lost your mind. You are fucking so removed from what's actually going on that you don't even, it's what you say. You don't even know what you look like when you look in the mirror. If you think that, you're truly lost, and you are the problem. You are the problem, because it's unbelievable how many people, I don't know. We're in a crucial time, because I think that if something doesn't change in 2024, or 2022, if the midterms don't go well, but if something doesn't change and we don't get somebody to fix this mess in 2024, it's going to get really fucking bad. If somebody keeps adding to the mess, it's going to get even worse. And I've talked about my theory on what's going on in the world, on the world stage in our country, and why it's going on. I think the World Economic Forum, whether you look at it or not, those people
do not have your best.
They do not have our best interests in mind. They don't have the best interests of this country in mind. And I think truly they really want to make it. They want to make this country so bad to live in and so bad to be in that we are begging the government to do something and change it. And they want to turn it to socialist. So they're willing to do whatever it takes. They're willing to hurt the supply chain, inflate the currency, do anything and everything to hurt this country so that we as the American people beg to them for a solution. And I mean, I don't know, you can say, oh, that's conspiracy theorists, but I mean, they have pretty much fucked up as much shit as you can fuck up in 2 years.
Yes.
For
not only that, but the world
and COVID also was a really scary thing just on how manipulative the media was and how kind of bought in the government was on pushing this down our throat of we gotta, I mean, they took our rights away.
Yeah.
And it was done so easily.
Yeah. And so many people just willingly went along
with it. And that is just a scare. That was manipulative. That whole deal was manipulative. And if you don't think that they're willing to do something a little crazier than that, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. So on a side note of that, today when I was getting ready for this podcast, I was perusing through Wall Street Journal and CNBC and just all the media, what the stories were going on. And in China, right now, there are 5 or 6 major cities. And when I say major cities, the smallest one of the cities that is locked down right now, I think is about a couple million people, clear up to like 15 million people. And scattered from north, south, east, west part of the country, but there's 5 or 6 cities that are on full lockdown, and there was an earthquake yesterday in one of those cities, and I don't know how many people died. The last I heard, there was like 70 people that had died, which that's terrible, but compared to, there was a big earthquake that hit there like 8 years ago, and like 70,000 people died. But one of the complaints that is gotten out is there were people that were in apartment buildings that could not get out of the buildings because they were locked. The doors were locked because they were in lockdown. And they're just lucky that those buildings didn't collapse. But China has a zero tolerance COVID policy, and the reason they do is because their vaccine does not work at all. They don't use any of the Western vaccines. They have their own, and it was only about 60% effective against the original coronavirus, and the variants, it almost has no it doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
But their economy is getting just absolutely hammered because of it, and you're seeing the U.S. dollar strengthen because of this. But that is just an example of where government, if given too much power, they make a lot of bad decisions. And in China, they're to the point where nobody speaks anything other than the policies that are put down from the top, out of fear of being suicided or just
executed,
taken, whatever. And so you have no pushback, and that's how you get what you have. And the United States, I've heard that, and I'm guilty of this. There's been a lot of times in the past few years when things have gone, like during COVID. We're lucky in that we live in a state of Iowa where we had a governor that was very proactive in trying to hold on to our rights and not pushing the agenda that was trying to be shoved down everybody's throat. But I made the comment that, it's sad when, as bad as it is here, we're still better than anywhere else in the world. Well, that's fine, but we're kind of at the point where just because we're better than everywhere else in the world, there's part of the world that is trying to get us to that level.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a real thing. And our next point plays right into that, which is what's going on in Europe. But
I want to say a little side note.
Yeah.
Did you see that what do you call it? What is
ivermectin.
it? Yeah, it's back on the CDC treatment list for COVID now.
And they've
saying that they outlawed in the very beginning to treat COVID, that a lot of doctors, frontline doctors were recommending, that said worked, that they were using on patients that was working, fired those doctors, told the media to totally outlaw, I can't say the word, I keep messing it up.
ivermectin.
Yep. And now it's back on the treatment list for COVID after they made all their money.
And it was just, the reason it is because they reviewed 27. They said there was, I guess don't hold me this number, but the number that sticks in my mind is like 27, quote, peer-reviewed tests or trials or whatever, and it was positive outcome in all of them. So the CDC said, sorry, not sorry. I guess we were wrong, but they didn't say that. They just quietly put it back
on the website.
Yep, put it back on there that it's okay to use. And that's just an example. I mean, we could go on and on, but let's move on.
Go for it.
So earlier this week, Russia shut down the Nord Stream 1 natural gas pipeline for maintenance, and then they never turned it back on. And conveniently, the reason that they're giving is because they're claiming that what needs to be done to the pipeline for maintenance, the only company that can do it is a company based out of Germany, and that company can't do any work for Russia because of the economic sanctions that were put in place at the beginning of the Ukraine war. So, well played, Russia, well played. So they're saying that unless the Europeans withdraw those sanctions, that there's no way that they can turn on that pipeline and begin the flows of natural gas again. So, they're the victim. It's Europe's own fault that they're not going to have any gas. So the ripple effect of this is we're headed into winter. Europe supposedly has, I've heard differing numbers, but have about 80% of the gas reserves that they need to get through a normal winter. And there is other places to get natural gas. There is a pipeline that comes from Turkey into the southern part of Europe. I think it comes up through Spain or Portugal that way. But it's not as big, and they can't get the volumes that they need. And so they're going to be looking for other places to try to get natural gas. And they can get some, but it's going to be more expensive. There's going to be more freight. And the big problem is that when you get to winter, they're going to have to make choices. And the choices are, you're going to have to limit economic output because manufacturing will get restricted so that the gas that they have will be used for heating, because obviously you don't want your population to freeze. But this affects, everybody talks about Germany. Germany is the economic powerhouse of Europe, and they're definitely going to be affected. But even Great Britain, even England, who's no longer part of the EU, they still get natural gas imports via the Nord Stream 1 because it goes through Europe and then it goes underneath and goes to them. And they're trying to broker a deal with the United States, and the U.S. has said, and when I say the U.S. has said, I don't actually know who and what department or where, what statement was made, other than I've just heard that the U.S. has said that they're going to step up and try to help supply the shortfall. Okay, what were we talking? We were talking about all the economic factors on the world stage that are going to affect what we have here. So one of the products that is made directly from natural gas is fertilizer, specifically nitrogen. And we're just going through a time this year where nitrogen prices skyrocketed, and what we have out in our field is one of the most expensive crops that we've ever raised. And we're going into next year, and everybody already knows that nitrogen is going to be expensive next year. If and when, I think it's a foregone conclusion that we will support Europe, and because of NATO and because our relationship with Europe and with England, there's no doubt that we're going to support them. And we're going to ship crude oil, we're going to ship natural gas, and that will help them. However, the cost of fertilizer to put in a crop in Europe for next year is going to be astronomical. I mean, it's going to be outrageous.
And here.
Mm-hmm. And so when you talk about all of the things that our politicians should be working on.
Well, there again, do you think that they even fucking think about that? Like that ripple effect? Do you think that they think about that ripple effect, that that decision they're going to make, do they realize that that is going to ultimately hurt farmers in a massive, massive way?
I don't think that it's front of mind for any. So all of your senators and your president and all of your politicians, they have people on their staff in the government whose job it is to know something about all these different things. But they're prioritizing all the time. And I don't think that they're aware. I'll be honest, and I've said this before, and obviously if you're a listener of the show over any period of time, you'll know that there are people that I value what they talk about, and they've definitely made an impression on me. And one of those people is Peter Zion. He's written 4 books, and he's a geopolitical guy, and he does a lot of stuff with demographics. But until I heard his take on the Ukraine war when it first started, and how that effect, or what that effect was going to be on fertilizer prices, which in turn was going to be the effect on the worldwide output of wheat, food and production, soy, and corn, and then the ripple effect of how that was going to affect livestock production. I'd never heard that anywhere else, and I'd never thought of it that way. And I had no idea.
Looking at this, it's going to have the same ripple effect.
Well, this is exactly what he's talking about. Exactly what he's talking about. And of all the problems that we have as a society, both here in America and across the globe, the biggest thing that can cause unrest faster than anything, and the Chinese know this so well, is people starving. Mm-hmm. And China, for all the things that they've done to their people and all of the restrictions they have, they've done a really good job of raising the quality of health or quality of life for people as far as food security, because they know that as long as they're fed, they'll put up with a lot. On our side, I feel like we all spend a lot of time bickering about stuff that, while it might be important today, might not be very important tomorrow. And when you get to a point in this country that you don't have food security, an awful lot of the things that we've spent a lot of political capital arguing about
ain't gonna matter.
Aren't gonna be. Yeah, it's not. It's not gonna matter.
Question I had is, wasn't it really hard to get so I know it was expensive, but wasn't it also kind of a challenge to get fertilizer for a while? Or was it still? So do you think that's also going to play into it? Because it's going to be expensive, but also that's going to hurt the amount of supply that's there. And for next year, it was hard. It was hard for some farmers to get it this year.
Right.
Going into next year, if they do that too, they do the natural gas thing, supply that to Europe, it's going to be way more expensive, and it's also going to be harder to get again. Yeah.
So the reason it is hard to get is because not all of the phosphorus, potash, nitrogen that we consume in the United States comes from us or Canada. Part of that has come from Ukraine or Russia. So a couple of the biggest exports that Russia has is fertilizer. Obviously, that's not coming. So then the second biggest producer, and we talked about it in an earlier podcast, and I can't remember which of those items it is, but Ukraine, if Russia's number one, Ukraine's number two, or vice versa. If Ukraine's number one, Russia's number two. And all that off the table.
Right now.
So the United States we have the resources that we could be
energy independent.
We could be fertilizer independent, but it's not going to happen overnight. And so what will happen is the price will ration. So if you are trying to raise corn in a fringe part of the corn belt where your yield is not great, you're probably not going to spend the money to grow corn and buy that nitrogen. You're probably going to switch to something like wheat or something like soybeans, because you're not going to be able. So if I can't raise 200 bushel corn or 220 bushel corn, if my county average is 100 and nitrogen is off the charts, I can't justify it. There's no way. I don't care what the price is. I don't care if corn's $8. I can't make it work. And so you're going to switch to another crop, which in turn will just make the price of those crops that much higher, while that might help the farmer this year, it doesn't help you for the next year, because then your inputs just get higher, your rent gets higher, all that stuff. But who it really hurts is the consumer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was going to say, I mean, if you're not a farmer, you're not paying attention, or you don't live in the Midwest, you can kind of look out, but it's dry in a lot of places. Yeah. And corn doesn't look really good this year. Beans not looking great really either. And it's going to be kind of a harder year. And a lot of farmers aren't going to make enough money this year to pay for what's coming next year.
Right.
And this is not going to help that case at all if we give a lot of the natural gas to Europe, because, like I said, we've been saying that fertilizer is going to ramp up. So we're going to need everything we can get, I guess, for prices to come down for next year's crop, and this is just not helping that at all.
Okay, and then play on top of that. So what you're saying is farmers are they're going to need more credit, because they're going to have to borrow more money to put in next year's crop. Okay, what's changed for next year versus last year or 2 years ago? Interest rates. So my operating line of credit, 2 years ago, maybe 399, 389, was 4.2 or 4.02, 4.2. I mean, it's been cheap. Interest has been cheap for a long time. I think it maybe 4.65 or even 5%. And if the Fed
where it
jumps,
is now.
I know it's 4.65. It might have jumped again. I don't know. But so if you're borrowing, so what I'm saying is, in the past, borrowing money
was pretty easy,
and it really wasn't much different than paying cash, because you're paying such a low interest rate that it's really not hard to, that cost isn't that high. But we're moving to a time where your inputs are going up, but then also the cost of money's going up. So if you are a farmer,
over-leveraged,
and you're over-leveraged, this is what's gonna put some of those guys on the out. And it's just, that's another ripple. It's another ripple of what we're talking about. And so then you transfer these high costs and this low. So if the acres get cut back and the yield's down because we can't put on as much fertilizer, then the prices of the grain gets higher, which that means your cattle, your hogs, your poultry, your turkey, anything that takes grain, in turn,
goes up.
That's going to go up.
And who's going to have to pay it?
And hog numbers are already down. The number of cows are down. Poultry's down. Turkey's down. Everything's down. There's a smaller supply. So what does that mean? That means that this inflation that we think that we can kill by raising interest rates, you can't really kill it, because it's not the money, it's the supply. So if you don't have enough pork, chicken, beef, whatever in the store, demand outstrips supply, so then the cost goes up, regardless of what interest rates are. So inflation, raising interest rates doesn't necessarily fix inflation when it comes to food if it's supply-based. Just another ripple.
Oh, gosh. That's a bomb. You got anything else to add to that natural gas thing? Or I think you pretty much covered all of it.
I don't think so. I mean,
it blows my mind when I sit here and I ask you that first question of, do you think they even fucking think about that kind of shit? And you would think that the people running your country would know that kind of stuff, but then they do shit like that and they take actions like that, and you just look at them and you go, do you know? Do you know? Or are you intentionally doing this because you want famine? I mean, you just start thinking about these things because, good God, we sitting here in Southeast Iowa, and we're farmers, so I guess you can think about it. We know a little bit more than probably the average person out there about these kind of things. But you figured it out. You can put the pieces together. Yeah. You're telling me some motherfucker in Washington, D.C. can't put that shit together and figure it out? And if they can't, that's a fucking concern.
But the other side of it is they may be able to put that together, but the machine turns so slow. I mean, let's face it. In the last 8 years, has anything gotten done other than spending money? I mean, that's something to think about that. Has anything really gotten done that you feel like has helped us
in a big way?
I mean, we all got a check in the mail. We got an automatic deposit during COVID, and there's some people out there that got their student loan forgiven, which I think probably when it's all said and done will not happen because I think it's unconstitutional. I think that'll go to the Supreme Court, and I think it probably will be ruled unconstitutional because I don't think that any president can actually do that. But that's beside the point. But the gridlock and just, I don't care what party on, nothing gets done. So when you say, don't they know what's happening? Well, they do, but everything gets used as a wedge. We talked about 2 weeks ago about immigration just being used as a football, being kicked back and forth. And so much stuff in our country is like that. And that's the problem, is the rest of the world, there's a lot of people in the world that are sharpening their knives and would like nothing more than to see the United States fall to the level that
they're on.
And go ahead. We're wasting a lot of time just arguing with each other about shit that doesn't matter.
Yeah, we've said it. I think we've said it before. I mean, it's been a while since we've said it, but China, their ethics, they don't worry about social problems as much as we do in this country and focus on social problems just as much as we do in this country. And so they have a mission. It's to grow their empire, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to do that. And ethics are out the fucking window.
Well, people are expendable. The individual doesn't. It's only the state. The individual doesn't matter
in China.
Yeah,
but here, so you got countries in the world that are doing that are all they care about is growing their empire and getting bigger and getting better as a country. And there is no democracy. It's, we're doing this. This is what we're doing. We don't care what happens. Whatever. They're going to move, right or wrong. They're moving, at least. They're taking action. Here,
it's gridlock.
We're just turning our wheels over and over again. And I'm not saying we need to just roll with one party and rock with it. We need to figure some shit out and get going. And I don't want you guys to tune into this show and be like, God, it's doom and gloom all the time, because we're going to get into what we can do about it as Americans, what we feel we can do about it as Americans. I mean, we've said it many times. They want you unhealthy. They want you to be broke. They want you to comply with everything that they fucking say. So do the opposite. That's what I'm striving to be, because the people that founded this country, the people that died for this country, died for your chance to make something great of yourself and great for your family and great for this country. And so what you can do, your obligation as an American, is try to be the best American you can be and try to be the best individual you can be, and just go against what they're trying. They want us to sit down and watch Netflix. They want us to eat shitty food. They want us to not go to the gym and work out and get exercise ever. They want you to be addicted to your phone. They want you to rely on their drugs. I mean, it's all kind of coming out, and more people are figuring this shit out little by little. So do the fucking opposite. They want you to be broke and not, they demonize people that are wealthy and say that it's evil because they don't want you to be rich. They don't want you to be wealthy because they don't want you to showcase that to other Americans that it's possible.
Not even wealthy. They don't want you to be financially independent. They want you to be indebted. Yeah. They don't want you to own a car that's paid for. They don't want you to own a house that's paid for. Or they don't want you to rent an apartment within your means and be investing the extra money that you're not spending on buying a house. All those little things, the machine, some of that government, some of that just business has been built on the idea of keeping people as consumers. They want people to consume.
And they won't want you to live too long.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't. They don't want you to live too long because if you live too long,
you quit consuming.
You quit consuming.
I mean, that's so true. That's 100% true because when you look at the difference between Sawyer and I'm 52, you're 22, right? Is that right?
Yep. Thanks, Dad.
Sometimes it's a little fuzzy. But I don't need much. Like, my hand tools are getting pretty old, but they still work. And I live in the house that I inherited from my parents because he moved into my house, but you know, it doesn't need a bunch of stuff. I don't need a bunch of stuff, and I'm driving a car that I really like that I've had for, I don't know, 10 years or so, and I'm not a big consumer. Sawyer's got to get he's got to get everything. He's got to get everything. And
so you're saying as you get older, you become less of a consumer.
Right. And
if you are a healthy old person.
Right, if you're a healthy old person. And that's the thing is, people my age, if you think like the idea of fitness isn't talked about enough,
that's
fitness in my
purpose.
age isn't talked about at all. The only thing that's talked about my age is make sure you go to the doctor and
get a thumb stuck up your ass. So
and take this. If you got this ache, take this. If you got this, take this. There's a pill for that. Don't worry about why. Don't worry about the why.
Quick fix.
Just treat the symptom. And I mean, we're getting off a little bit, but it's so true. Think for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I say do the opposite of what they're trying. Most likely, we always say it. Think for yourself. Look at things differently. Go dig for yourself. Go research. But when you kind of start to look at those things and figure out things, a lot of this stuff is done on purpose. Probably not for the betterment of you and the people of the country or the world, whatever you want to say. So do the opposite of those things that you come to realize. If they want you to be unhealthy and eat McDonald's every day, do opposite. Go to the gym, work out, go on a 15-minute walk, do something healthy every day. Don't spend all your time consuming. Don't spend all your time becoming a consumer. And you'll be surprised if you strive to be a better person, strive to be a better American, you strive for something great for your family and for the betterment of this country, that sets the standard in your community. Wherever you're from, that sets a standard. Some people might be like, oh, fuck that guy. He's trying to be better than everybody else. But there's going to be 10 other guys that look at you and go, he's setting the standard. He's doing that for his family. I'm going to do it for mine. And that is how we change things. If we're not a consumer and we're not relying on the government and we're free thinkers and we're healthy individuals and we do everything that the establishment is trying to conform us to be, that's hard to fucking control.
Yeah.
That's really hard to control. So that's what we can do. And also go vote. That's what we can do you got to control the controllables. But at the end of the day, that's what we can do as individuals, as American citizens, is live a very fulfilling and independent life. And I think that's what America was founded on, and people died for, fighting for this country for that. They want people to have the opportunity to make something for themselves and their family, and set the standard.
Yeah.
It's your obligation.
So let's talk about, we talked about your own life, but something else to think about is when we talk about national politics, and even really in some cases state politics, you don't feel like your vote,
There's some people that, they think
you
their
don't
vote
feel
don't
like
matter.
that you're making much of a change.
And unfortunately, and I'll just say it's the elephant in the fucking room when it comes to voting. There's half the country, or I don't know, but some feel that the last election didn't have a lot of integrity. And that's kind of a scary feeling, and you might be discouraged to go back to the polls. You can't let that happen.
Right.
We cannot let that happen.
But your local elections get overlooked a lot, and everything starts at the local level. Starts on your school board, starts on your local officials. And let me give you an example. The most recent in the little town we live in, the most recent city council vote, which I don't vote in the city council vote because I don't live in the town. But the person that won, a lot of people that share my point of view weren't very happy that person won. But the reason they won by like 20 more votes than the person that everybody thought was probably going to win. That person did a good job of getting people out to vote for them, and they won. Your vote is important in local elections. And I'll give you another example. You have to be involved in where you live, in your local, what goes on in your town. So there was an issue, I'm not going to get into it. There was an issue in the little town we live in with something that was going on, and a lot of people were upset about it. And there's some people that kind of have the opinion that, you do you, and it's all fine, and
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about
it. Just kind of stick their head in the sand. But so they had a meeting about it. Nothing to be voted on, just public opinion, people talking about people giving their thoughts on it. They had this meeting at 2:00 in the afternoon on like a Wednesday. Well, guess what? The only people that showed up for the most part were city officials and retired people and people that were involved in nonprofit organizations that deal with the issue that was going on, that have a vested interest in continuing that to go on. People who have 9-to-5 jobs and that have children that go interact downtown where this stuff was going on, guess what?
They were not the ones that could use their voice because they were doing shit.
Because they were working.
Yeah.
Because they're working. And I just thought that was really interesting, because you can say, oh, yeah, well, that was just the convenient time that they could do it. I don't think so. I think that time was chosen on purpose because they knew that some of the people that had been affected by this, or had loved ones that had been affected by it, couldn't voice their opinion because they were working.
They couldn't show up.
And those are the kind of things that me 10 years ago, I wouldn't have given that a second thought, because I would have been like, oh, well, no big deal. Because I didn't care. I wasn't paying attention. But when you pay attention, you're like, well, why is that like that? Well, I don't know for sure why it's like that, but I was curious. To me, it was curious that was done that way. So pay attention, be involved, do what you can do at your level, because it all goes up. So the government really likes to do top down, but we as citizens of this country, we need to be proactive in worrying about bottom up.
Right.
Change at the bottom.
Focus on your family, focus on your community, and setting the standard of what you think America should be. Strive for excellence. Strive to make your community better. Strive to make your household better. Because if every single family out there does that, every small town, every community sets a higher standard and wants to go against the establishment, and that's kind of what the town is, that's hard to control, and that spreads. Yeah. And the great thing is we social media, we say it's got some bad, it's got some positives, but you can also make a bigger impact outside of just your communities too. But I'm just saying, start with your communities because that's important. Every small town, every little community out there sets that standard and goes against the establishment and strives for greatness, they can't fucking control us. And that's what we can do. That's what we can do. Because we sat here and we're like, we don't want to keep giving you guys doom and gloom all the time. Well, that's what we can do.
Yeah. Yeah. And to jump back a little bit, you were talking about taking care of yourself. And you know what? I mean, I have not done a very good job of taking care of, I get plenty of exercise. I feel like I get plenty of exercise. Loading pigs is like cardio for me. But let's face it, I spend a lot of time sitting on my arse too, as far as that goes. And I used to always say that my body was kind of like a tree. And every year I added a ring, and I've had some good years. And when the last pant size that I bought started to get tight, my wife and I decided that we need to do a better job of taking care of ourselves. And so for the first time in my life, and this is part of getting older, because when you're young, you feel like you can eat anything. It doesn't really matter. You can treat yourself as poorly as you want, and you can get by with it for quite a while. The problem is it's not the years, it's the mileage. And when that mileage starts to catch up, it'll kind of play hell with things. But I really like pasta. I like eating.
We should have been Italian.
Yeah, I should have
we
been.
We eat a shitload of pasta.
I like that. And my wife is an amazing cook, and we can make about anything taste good with a stick of butter and some Parmesan cheese and some heavy cream. I mean, let's face it, it's pretty damn good. But I was suffering from eating pasta 3 or 4 days a week or nights a week or whatever, and we made the decision that we were going to stop. We were going to do something different. And I will have pasta once in a great while, but we've pretty much cut that out. I eat a lot more salmon. I eat a lot more just meat without a bun. And I'm convinced this is one of the best things I ever did. This is my health advice to you, and it may not work for you, but it's really worked for me, is we started making overnight oats. So we just take oatmeal and a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of vanilla, and honey, and put milk in it, fill it up to where it's level, and then we put it in the fridge. And then in the morning, we put walnuts and blueberries in it. And I have that every morning. Now, on occasion, I'll have that every morning, and then I might have a slice of bacon later on, too, because, I mean, you got to have that. And really, bacon is almost a perfect food, too. Look it up. But just making that one change and sticking to it has paid great dividends. And part of the reason is because when I eat the oatmeal, I'm not near as hungry at noon, and so I don't eat as big a lunch. And then at supper, I just try to eat, something halfway healthy. And when my last box of cereal went empty, I didn't buy anymore. I don't keep any cereal in the house.
Got rid of the potato chips.
Yeah, we don't eat any chips. If I had to give one piece of advice, the best thing you can eliminate out of your diet is seed oils. Mm-hmm. Do not eat anything if you can. And I mean, we just ate at a restaurant in Iowa City. We had an appointment up there, and
in moderation.
I guarantee you that the wings that I had were fried in peanut oil or some kind of oil.
All fast food is.
Yeah, I mean, it all is. But we don't have any, we have no corn oil, soybean oil, canola oil. We don't have any of that. We cook with avocado oil or olive oil, and we don't buy any chips. I haven't had a bag of chips in I don't know how long, and I love them, but we don't have them. And I don't have that stuff to snack on. If I get hungry and I'm going to have a snack, I mean, I'll have a slice of cheese, or I'll have a beef stick, or something like that.
Nuts. Handful of nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would just say, that's a good way. Like when I say strive for excellence, you got to start small. Yep. So, I mean, I'm not saying do what you can do, but strive to be better and do those small changes. Because if you do enough small changes over time, you're going to change your lifestyle and be a healthier person and go against establishment and whatever it is, whether it's your finance, health, fitness, whatever. But we're going to stay on fitness a little bit, and I'll just give you my spiel because, and this is the great thing about the age we live in. Anything you want to look up and find, you can figure out information pretty easily. This is the rules you got to stick by. If you want to lose weight, you got to eat less calories than you burn. And you can figure out the equation of what that is online, and you can find it. And if you're trying to gain weight and grow muscle, eat more calories than you burn because you're in a caloric surplus. Caloric deficit is when you eat less calories than you burn. That's a caloric deficit. And if you want to gain weight, muscle, you got to eat in a caloric surplus. So you got to eat more calories than you burn. And you can figure that out online. So go figure that out. So if you want to change your body, you got to do it those two ways. Yep. You got to eat a certain amount of carbs, a certain amount of protein, a certain amount of fats. And you can find all that stuff online and it'll tell you. But that is literally all you got to do when it comes to your diet is those things. And you can either gain muscle or lose fat.
It's not a shake and it's not a pill.
And I'm not saying it's as easy. It's not a shake. It's not a pill. Don't fall for that shit. But fitness is not an easy journey, but it is a rewarding one. So if you ever do it, you'll feel good and it's rewarding. So that's all I got to say about that. But I hope you guys gained some value and some insight on this one. I hope you related with us in some way. And I hope you guys try to set your standard in your community because that's what we can do to try to make this country better in our own lives. That's what us guys can do. So I appreciate everybody. We appreciate everybody. And we'll see you guys back. Go pay the fee, and we'll see you guys back in the next one.